First payday is a non-refundable deposit you collect from your buyer. Second payday is the spread every single month that you're collecting. And the third payday is once the property cashes out. It's the equity that you built in the property, and if there's any additional premium or spread left over on the price, that's what you collect at that point in time. So if you're in like a really hot market, like I said, the DC area, ours is turned to lean towards like 120,000 all three paydays. And then compared to maybe a smaller market in like Pennsylvania, where it ends up being somewhere in like the $50,000 to $60,000 range.
Welcome to the Wealth Through Real Estate Investing podcast, your source for real-world strategies focused on creating long-term wealth, cash flow, and financial freedom through real estate. Through guidance, tips, and stories of highly successful real estate investors and thought leaders, we provide you the tools to succeed and reach the lifestyle you always wanted. And now your host, Dwaine Clarke.
Hello and welcome to the Wealth Through Real Estate Investing podcast. This is your host, Dwaine Clarke. And today we have Zachary Beach. Zachary is a real estate investor, coach, and chief operating officer at Smart Real Estate Coach in Newport, Rhode Island. Zachary, thank you so much for joining us on the show, and how are you?
I'm fantastic, Dwaine. Thanks for having me on. I'm super grateful that you invited me on the show, and I look forward to bringing your audience some great value.
Absolutely. I really look forward to this. A couple weeks ago, or maybe it was over the summer, I spoke with your father-in-law, Chris. We had a really good depth in conversation regarding, how you guys kind of operate buying properties with little to no money down and lease options and a whole bunch of stuff. We had a tremendous amount of feedback from that episode. So I'm glad to kind of bring you in to kind of go a little bit even deeper into it. So really appreciate it. But before we kick things off, for people who are not familiar with you, would you mind taking a few moments to introduce yourself, talk about your background, how you get started in real estate?
Sure. Yeah, I'd love to. I would say I don't have the normal background that you would have as a real estate investor. I joined real estate investing about 4 years ago. And before that, I was a bartender and personal trainer. Coming out of college, I had zero idea what I wanted to do. So I thought it'd be really cool to move down to Newport, Rhode Island and enjoy the tourist life down here because it's a beautiful area. And I was just slinging drinks and pumping weights. That's all I was doing for about 4 years out of college. And then I started burning the candle on both ends and was getting really burnt out. So went to my father-in-law, Chris, and my brother-in-law, Nick, at the time. They were buying some real estate on terms like we're going to talk about here. And I said, hey, I don't know if I'm going to like real estate, but I'd love to join you guys, and because I know it's better than what I'm doing right now. And of course, I see no future here. So luckily, they accepted me. We started building out this business. I ended up fitting in, and here we are now.
Awesome. So what was that kind of that aha moment? I know that your family was into the business and they were, kind of saying good things about it, and maybe said this is intriguing, but was there like a particular aha moment to say, real estate may be my possible calling?
I wish there was. I think it was more of the frustration of my life that I was in at that time than it was hey, real estate's, fantastic. There's plenty of people out there, and you read up on it. The most billionaires were made through real estate, and the most millionaires were made through real estate, or they have some sort of real estate investing. So I said, well, there's no way I'm going to lose here. I'm at least going to acquire some skills that even if I don't like real estate, the day-to-day operations, that I can always still find a way to invest and to create, a portfolio or something. So it was just more out of the desire of limiting the pain that I was in at that point in time, which I was just extremely burnt out.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of resonating with a lot of younger listeners, people that's looking to get into real estate that, when I came out from college, I discovered real estate by seeing like a road sign when I was going to my first job. And it just said, come to this real estate RIA meeting and come learn about all these different stuff. So I kind of like jumped in based off of just seeing a sign. And like I said, people get into a different avenues. So, your story is definitely different, but it's inspiring because not only that you got into the business, but you're highly successful. Can you kind of touch on as far as kind of the amount of deals you guys are doing and kind of like maybe your role within the company?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I first joined our family business, we were primarily just real estate investing, meaning we had this coaching company that we were working on, Smart Real Estate Coach, but it was very tiny compared to what we were doing as just our personal buy and sell entities. And that, of course, has grown. The Smart Real Estate Coach has now grown significantly, and we help people around the country buy and sell properties the exact same way we do by locking arms with them. Because there's a huge gap between people buying products and people actually doing deals. So that's why we lock arms with them and help them build and scale their business if they choose to. We're right now, say nationally with all of our associates, we do about 10 plus properties around the country a month. It's starting to scale past, say, 15. Eventually that will be the norm, but right now it's the outlier. So what does that mean? That means that we are working with individuals out there looking to buy and sell real estate on terms, and we're helping them acquire these deals. So it's pretty amazing to watch. And then we also, we always want to stay on the cusp of everything. We still have our own personal buy and sell entities where we're still doing deals in the trenches. This morning I went and drove out to Providence, Rhode Island to look at another property. Checked my email as soon as I got back in the office, and we're working on closing another property that we're buying on owner financing. So we're still building our personal portfolio. We're a heck of a lot more picky now. We've done so many deals, but we're hitting it on both ends, both with our associates and in our personal buy and sell entities. And my role tends to be it depends on which company we're talking about, either our own buy and sell entities or the coaching. But I focus primarily on acquiring properties, so I work with our VAs and managing them, and also work with the majority of the sellers to buy and sell, to buy our properties and buy them on terms.
Yeah, the one thing I'm really impressive is that, kind of Chris touched on this on the last interview, is that you guys are in the trenches doing it. And then also the other thing I like is that you're locking arms with your associates and people that you're mentoring. And that's something that when I was starting out probably would have been very helpful. I went through a whole bunch of different seminars and, took all these different courses, but sometimes you go in there and it's kind of like this missing gap that you can kind of take from the stuff that they teach you to actually executing, because there's a lot of moving parts in some of the particular transactions. And sometimes you have a question that you need answered, but you just can't figure it out. And like I said, the way you guys kind of structure it, all the systems that you have in place, it's just kind of like a really phenomenal way of kind of going about it, especially if you really are serious about the business, want to make a lot of money. And as far as kind of like the typical day-to-day, you said that you do a lot of the acquisitions, going out, looking at the deals. How else, what other arms are into the company that you guys are doing? Is like sending out letters and, analyzing deals and stuff like that. Can you kind of touch on that for the audience?
Yeah, so if we're talking about like lead generation and lead acquisition, we're not huge on sending out mailers, I think, because mailers can be expensive, so it's not always easily coachable. Meaning we don't want people that are coming into the business to be spending a lot of money on mailers, as it costs a heck of a lot more than every other lead generation that we do. And of course, if you're coming from like a wholesaling background or a fix and flip background, people are spending. And I was in the room with some of the top 10% in the country down in Texas in wholesaling and in fix and flips, and they were spending north of six figures a month on marketing. That's definitely not our. It's definitely not our model. We primarily are doing more sweat equity. I teach everyone to work on the phones. You got to get really good at your phone skills and your appointment skills. So we're definitely in a people business, and we buy and sell on a very particular way, which isn't always the best fit for everyone, but it's extremely creative and it can help solve a lot of people's problems. So building relationships is, in my opinion, is even more important within our business model, because if you're buying and selling property, or if you're buying property with little to no money down, you have a seller that's going to be trusting you with an asset that they have. And the majority of our deals are going 5, 10, and for buying owner financing, sometimes 20, 30 years. So you gotta build that trusting relationship, and it takes time to evolve. So a majority of the things that we're doing is on the phone and in person. And we're really fishing in the same type of ponds as everyone else is. We just happen to have a completely different method than most people are using. We're calling on expireds, we're calling on for sale by owners, for rent by owners. We're presenting a completely different solution to people's problems. than others. So we tend to stand out. And once we acquire those deals, they become very profitable on our end, as well as they are both. We're getting some money now and over time, which is a really cool asset.
Yeah, I like that a lot. You mentioning regarding that kind of the sweat equity, getting on the phones. When I started, I had to, putting out signs, the road signs, and, sending out letters, and depending on when you expected to get a deal, it is kind of quite costly up front to get that going. And, especially, even a time effort, a lot of people who may want to transition part-time or have a full-time job to this business, I think that's more practical rather than kind of them setting up a whole marketing operation, which is kind of a business in itself. So that's a very amazing piece. Can you talk about kind of like who is like the typical seller for these, these types of deals? Is it more absentee owners? Is it, people who are going through stressful situations? Can you kind of talk about that a bit?
Yeah. So absentee owners can be great. You can, so we tend to deal with people. I hate to use the word pain because it can both be a positive pain. It can also be a negative pain. So we buy a lot of property that are free and clear. So that's somebody that, is looking to maximize the profit on their house. So they don't need a cash offer right now. They'd rather get 100% or 95% compared to, somebody that's fix and flipping or a wholesale offer, which is going to be like between 40 and say 60 cents on the dollar. So somebody that wants to get the most profit from their house. Also, there's somebody in a position where they can wait for their equity. So somebody that doesn't need other equity today. So obviously that's somebody that's in a really good financial position. So those are great for free and clear. The other side of it is somebody that may need some debt relief. So that could be somebody that could be selling their property roughly for what they owe. They're going to come out of pocket if they deal with a realtor, or somebody that has two properties or that's relocating and they have two mortgages and they just want debt relief from one of the mortgages. Also, you're talking about, we buy a lot of properties that expire from being with a realtor. So that could be a number of different things, such as like functionality or just little nuances associated with the property. Any quirkiness or uniqueness that makes their buyers, the traditional buyer, becomes smaller and smaller market that they're working within. So those are great properties for us because once we turn around and sell it, we sell it to a tenant buyer. So somebody that just is outside of financeability from a bank and they just need a little time. They're less picky. We're putting them in a position where they have the path to home ownership. So some of those properties that are sitting in the market for a long period of time can more easily be sold in our market because our buyers are grateful for the opportunity to become a homeowner and are more than willing to take on a property that's not quote unquote perfect.
And the pretty cool thing is that you can do this in kind of any different, any type of cycle as well, good or bad market. And like I said, it gives you the flexibility there because you're, going straight to seller, negotiating, and then bringing in tenant buyers. I mean, it can fit any type of situation.
Oh yeah, we're working in markets, working on really high-end markets like down in DC. Of course, the higher-end markets, you're probably going to end up netting a little bit more profit per deal. Like down in DC, we roughly all 3 paydays, and I don't know if Chris covered this on before, but I can recover that. So the first payday is a non-refundable deposit you collect from your buyer. Second payday is the spread every single month that you're collecting. And the third payday is once the property cashes out. It's the equity that you built in the property, and if there's any additional premium or spread left over on the price, that's what you collect at that point in time. So if you're in like a really hot market, like I said, the DC area, ours is turned to lean towards like 120,000 all 3 paydays. And then compared to maybe a smaller market in like Pennsylvania, where it ends up being somewhere in like the $50,000 to $60,000 range. Now, full disclosure, I don't know what your paydays are going to be. Coming from any type of market, but our market, say up here in New England right now, if you look at all of our properties that our family buys, is roughly $75,000 all 3 paydays. So really cool profits for little to no money down in crafting up these really longer term deals and great terms deals.
Yeah, especially, really good profit, especially putting no money down. So, that's definitely awesome. Can you, mentioned the 3 paydays. Can you kind of go through maybe a past deal or maybe a current deal or whatever you like to share as far as kind of like the numbers, how'd you find the deal, what the numbers look like, maybe the negotiation technique, the motivation from the seller. I think that'd be cool to share with our audience.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. So we actually have a thing that we call Deal Structure Sunday every single week, and we do it on YouTube, which is really cool. So if you ever go to Smart Real Estate, youtube.com/Smart Real Estate Coach, and go look at the Deal Structure Sundays. We do them on the whiteboard. We do some of them via Zoom. Really cool for you, for everyone out there that wants to understand how we structure these deals, to go take a look at that. But I'll talk about one of my first best deals. I won't cover my first deal, which was a bit of a pain, but I'll cover my first best deals, which happened to be an expired listing for the source. It's an owner financing deal. We structured it to, I believe, buy it for $399,000. It's actually in Connecticut. We structured $1,000 principal only payments each month, so zero interest loan, full, zero money down. For 4 years, 48-month term. We then collected, we then sold it to a tenant buyer for 24 months. We ended up getting a spread of roughly $500 per month, and they came in with $20,000 down at the signing. But then we ended up structuring, I think, pretty close to $40,000 over the length of the term. That buyer unfortunately defaulted, but that's part of the business. Sometimes it happens. Morally and ethically, we do everything we absolutely can in order to make sure that they're set for success. But life event did happen there. He broke up with his girlfriend, and they just weren't able to afford it that way. So we're getting $1,000 principal off every month, roughly $500 a month in spread, and we sold it for roughly $40,000 over the original price that we got. So if that deal continued with that person, it was going to be roughly a six-figure deal. I think it was in the 90-something thousand. And I apologize, I don't have the exact numbers here. But if you go on to the Deal Structure Sunday, and it's called Zach's First Deal Lake View, you'll be able to see all these numbers written out on the board. So then fast forward, we placed the next tenant buyer on the property. They came in with something very similar, $20,000 down. It's going to be $40,000 up through the period of time. And the reason why those are similar down payments is because it's roughly getting up to 10%. We're getting roughly the same spread, $500 a month, and $1,000 principal payments. So in total, with both the tenant buyers, by the end of the 48 months, it's going to be well over six figures.
Wow,
I think it's like 120-something thousand. In total profits once this person cashes this out.
Wow. So yeah, so like I said, the good thing is that not only you're going to get the payment at the end, but like I said, you're getting that payment each month, which is like kind of like a double whammy there.
Yeah, it was an interesting. The reason why we were able to get this deal done as well is because this was an out-of-state owner. He also had a life event, so we just happened to catch him at the I don't want to say the right time. It was the wrong time for him, but we were able to provide that solution for him. And I was going back and forth with him because Connecticut has really high taxes, especially for I believe it's $11,000 in taxes for a $400,000 house that we bought. Mm-hmm. So pretty crazy. I mean, that's high for most states out there, I should say. So I kept going back and forth with him, and I kept telling him, if we're going to take over the taxes, like, we got to get this payment down. And he actually gave me the number and said, well, it's $1,000 work per month. And I said, yeah, I think that'll work. So we have it on the market for it ends up being about $2,500 is roughly what we're collecting, or $2,450 per month. So it's roughly a $500 spread each month. And then a really cool scenario here as well. There happens to be a one-bedroom suite over the garage that we've been renting the entire time for an additional $750 a month.
Wow.
So that property itself has multiple streams of income, and again, with little to no money down on these types of properties. So I didn't even include the total profit to include that other one bedroom. So that's additional $750 cash flow for you.
Wow, that's awesome. It's like what's kind of like I know in this particular case you solved that problem for this particular seller. But are you seeing, or maybe your students are seeing, kind of like any type of pushback or from sellers for this types of proposition? I know I could imagine all of the benefits because you guys are able to kind of solve the problem very quickly. But can you compare this to people just straight listing it and just waiting for it to sell?
But yeah, of course, there's pushback. One of our scripts, and it's 100% true, is 99% of the people we buy from want a traditional sale. I mean, people don't wake up in the morning and say, I would love to owner finance my property, or I would love to, sell my property on a lease option or a lease purchase. They don't. What happens is it's through the building of the relationship and through our follow-up system and working them and really building that relationship. You end up getting past the surface level motivation, which once you get past that, you figure out if you can solve their problem.
Mm-hmm.
We can't solve everyone's problems. Some people, no matter what, they're selling on the open market. They don't care if they pay a realtor. They'll lower their price, significant in order to get the thing done, in order to pull out the equity that they have in the property. There's just certain situations that we can't be the problem solver. So what I talk a lot with our associates and our students is about disqualifying people. It's ask and have clear, open, honest conversations and ask the right questions to determine if you can help them or not. If you can't, then you move on and maybe put a tickler there for maybe 6 months because time changes everything. But know who you can help and who you can't help, and focus with the people you can help and let the people you can't help go away, because those are the ones that are going to take up the most of your time. So it is definitely a sorting process, but as you get used to this business, just like in anything, and you start acquiring those skills, you know what key things, key red flags are, or key indicators are, if you can help them or not, based on the conversations and their motivation.
Makes sense. As far as kind of know, every situation is different. Do you see kind of like a typical time range? Because I know that you had mentioned that their situation can change where they finally realize like this actually will solve my problem. Do you see it maybe it's like a 3 months, 6 months? And I know that you're working on multiple deals, so some of them are popping up, other times. But do you see like a range of like what people can expect as far as kind of like from beginning all the way to fruition of getting a contract with a seller?
Yeah, I would say on average, 6 months is pretty normal. Especially, it's going to depend on the lead type. And when I say that, I mean, did you call on a for sale by owner? And the reason why they're for sale by owner is because they think they can sell on their own. More than likely, the cycle goes like this: somebody's a for sale by owner. They then realize they can't sell it, or it's a heck of a lot more work than they realize selling a property. So then they go the traditional route and they go work with a realtor. So you talk to them, say in the first month. They then go with a realtor. The realtor puts them under contract for 90 to 180 days. Mm-hmm. It doesn't sell. Now they expire, and now you have another touch base with them again. Now they've been dragged through the mud and have been through the open market, and now you become a really good option because they're 6 months in, they're sick of it. So 6 months is pretty normal. 90 days is pretty normal. It's just enough. It's going to depend, again, on their motivation, but it's enough for somebody to realize, like, hey, I'm sick of doing this. I need to look for alternatives, because what I'm putting out there, the market is not bearing, or they need to make adjustments, right? Majority of people, if they have it on the traditional market and it doesn't sell, it's usually because it's price. Now, it just depends on how dedicated that person is to that price, as if it's going to stay out there or not. And if price becomes a thing, then that's something usually that we can help them with. Because we can help them, eliminate a lot of realtor fees, some closing costs, as long as they have the ability to wait.
Makes sense. As far as kind of like people that are intrigued, want to get started, they get the, kind of start out with the education. What's kind of like you would say, like, what's like the first step? Is it, the phone skills? Is it, learning the negotiation tactics with sellers? What do you think is, what is that process is for those people starting out?
Yeah, the first 90 days of starting this business is getting on the phone. I mean, if you can get started in this business, is you have a lead source, meaning you got maybe a database that's giving you expired for sale by owners, and then you have a phone to start making calls because it's really working your scripts. I would say the first 90 days is you learning your scripts and then internalizing them and then bringing your own style. As soon as you have your own style, the next 90 days, so day 91 to 180, is when you're really bringing in quality leads. And when I mean by a lead, I'm not talking about a prospect. I'm talking about someone you actually talk to, you gather information, and now they're in your follow-up system. So now you're bringing in really high-quality leads for the next 90 days, and that's why I say that most people get their first deal at day 180, somewhere around that range. It is that's our expectation as always. This isn't get rich quick. This is get rich permanent. This is learning the skills now. That way you can have these skills forever. So yeah, right around day 180-ish is when you should have your first deal on a contract.
Yeah, very cool. And like I said, ramp it up to the level where you guys are doing, 10, 15 deals a month and, making monthly cash flow, making big, like I said, 3 paydays. Is something that's very motivating for people. You have a book out, co-authored, The New Rules of Real Estate Investing. Can you kind of touch on what's in it and what people can expect when they read it?
Yeah, I'd love to give your audience it for free. If we didn't give it out last time, it'd be 100% free, meaning you're not going to pay for shipping or handling or anything. All you got to do is just give us your information, and you mind if I just give away the website?
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll get it again at the end of the call, but yeah, we'd love to, tell us now.
It's just newrulesforfree.com. Newrulesforfree.com. We have the 24 leading experts, including myself, my brother-in-law Nick, and my father-in-law Chris. We dive into multiple facets of real estate. So it isn't just about buying and selling on terms. We actually go through, me, Chris, and Nick, and we make notes next to the other experts as well. That way we can help you get some key action items to take away from. And it's just about diving into what's working now, instead of, what has worked in the past.
Mm-hmm. And one thing that's really impressive is that you can do this in business in any state. You're doing it in Connecticut, which we both agree is a high tax state. Mm-hmm. And, there's a lot of elements that may distract real estate investors to the state. You mentioned DC is another one, and I'm pretty sure people are doing it in other New Jersey or other different types of states. So you can do this business anywhere. So it's really, I say, very encouraging, especially for people who are listening to this call that are new, that want to get started, that they say, invest in your backyard. You actually can do that if you find a good deal. So, as far as kind of this, for the audience to learn a little bit more about you, kind of your day-to-day routine, do you have a specific type of typical day, and do you have a specific morning routine?
Oh, absolutely. I've come to realize that, and I try to study the most successful people and surround myself with the most successful people. And a key trait is they have a very strict morning routine, and typically a daily routine. So when I get up in the morning, I do one of two things. I either go directly to the gym or I go down into my basement and I meditate. So I always try to do one thing that's going to help my body and mind in the morning. And then if it's at the gym, then I'm typically listening to an Audible or a podcast for at least the first half of my workout. And the second half, I'll listen to music to kind of ramp things up and get my energy up. And then once I get into the office, I use a planner. It's called a 90X journal. And what I do is I script out the top 5 things that I need to do that day in order to move towards my goals we have trimesters. That's how we base things. Move me towards my top goals for my trimester. So I mark those down, and then I plan out the rest of my day based upon that, which is really important because it's very common it's very common for all of us to allow distractions and to allow things that seem important or seem urgent enter our day, and then they throw us off. So I take a look at my calendar every morning, and I take a look and I say, is everything in my calendar going to move me towards my goals? If it isn't, then I eliminate it, or I start thinking about delegating it, which as the business grows, you then can take those things that need to be done but don't need to be done by you, and you hire an assistant or executive assistant or a virtual assistant, and then delegate those things from you. So very strict on planning out my day, and then every Sunday I plan out my entire week in order to make sure that, again, my week is productive towards what I'm trying to accomplish. And if there's things that pop up, I either move them if they're going to be important next trimester or next year, or I eliminate them because there's no need to spend time on it.
I like that a lot. Yeah, that's a really good tips. Like I said, I have kind of a similar thing, but yeah, I like that. And I mentioned 90X, really good system there. So yeah, awesome. I love it a lot. So Zachary, what are you most grateful for?
almost grateful for my family. I think that's what gets me up in the morning every day. And certainly my health. I mean, I've seen too many people either pass away too early or not be able to live the life that they want based upon their health. So those are things I constantly keep the top of mind as I'm working towards being as successful as I possibly can. And if you don't have your health and you don't have the main drivers like your family and support, then it's not possible.
Absolutely. Love it. Love it. How do we get in contact with you? I know you mentioned the book link, but is there any other contact information you can share with us?
I think the best thing is to go to the book. That's going to start you kind of through, let's say, through our funnel, but you start getting access to our material and who we are. Another great spot, maybe you don't have time to read a book right now or while you're waiting for the book to be sent to you, I would just go look at our, it's a 45-minute free webinar. It's right on our website. I'll give you that link. It's smartrealestatecoach.com/webinar. That's a great way to do the really quick surface level view about what we're doing. And as I did mention earlier, the YouTube channel is fantastic, especially if you're an analytical type person, you want to see how we break down these deals. You'll get a ton of content, especially on Sundays, on our deal structure Sundays. So I'd go ahead and I'd use those links, and then you'll be in our radar, and I'm sure we'll be talking.
Awesome. Zachary, thank you so much. It was great finally get a chance to speak with you. It was a couple of weeks we took to get your book with your schedule and stuff like that. We're practically neighbors. I'm in Connecticut, you're in Rhode Island. So look forward to connecting with you again soon. Appreciate the time again, and have a great week.
Thanks. Thank you, Dwaine. I appreciate it.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Wealth Through Real Estate Investing podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review on iTunes or the listening platform of your choice. Also, please check us out at DwaineLClarke.com, as well as find us on Facebook for more useful content and resources.